What's up, Ocean? You got Matt here, and today I'm bringing you a guide on how to use Iron Moth in competitive Pokemon. This thing is one of the best new Paradox Pokemon out there, and is going to have a defining impact on the metagame. So if you're excited for the video, then make sure to leave a like on the video and help us reach our new like goal of 100 likes. Comment your thoughts on Iron Moth down below, and if you think this is the better form of Volcarona. And of course, guys, subscribe to the channel and help us reach our sub goal of 3,000 subscribers. Let's go ahead and jump on into it. Starting off with its stats, its HP is base 80, attack 70, defense 60. None of that is impressive at all. However, its special attack is 140. That is crazy. Its special defense, 110. Its speed is also 110. It is an extremely hard-hitting special breaker that is so damn fast. An amazing combination here. It's also got a really solid base stat total overall at 570. Now its typing is interesting here. It's poison and fire. It shares that typing with Salazzle, and this one has weaknesses to rock, to water, psychic, and to ground 4 times, but it actually has quite a few different resistances. Starting off with fighting, poison, steel, fire, ice, and then it resists 4 times a bug, grass, and fairy. So it's a great way to get rid of opposing fairy types, which are running the metagame right now, running house on the metagame right now. On top of that, grass types and bug types aren't the best offensively, but now you have an amazing way to counter them and beat them down really effectively with a Pokemon like Iron Moth. Overall though, is its typing going to be an advantage for it or a disadvantage? I think the typing for regular Volcarona, in my opinion, is a bit better, but hey, that's just me. Let me know what you guys think about that down in the comments below. Moving on though to its ability, it is a future form, a future Paradox Pokemon, meaning it has Quark Drive as its ability. So what that means is if electric terrain is up, this Pokemon's highest stat is boosted by basically 1 stage. If it's its speed stat, so it's a 50% boost, and instead of being a 50% boost, if it's the another stat, it's 30% boost. So that means if the attack or special attack in this case is the highest stat, it'll be a Life Orb boost compared to the speed stat, which will be a Choice Scarf boost. That's really the difference there. Overall, when I first saw these abilities, I didn't think it was going to be that impactful, but the booster energy is such an amazing boon for this Pokemon, allowing it to get that boost whenever it really needs to, and that's really, really effective. So having that with this ability means that you're never really going to be having a bad ability overall, and I think that's a good thing for Pokemon like Iron Moth. Now we're going to talk about some of the most notable moves for this Pokemon. Overall, its special move pool is incredibly diverse, really deep, and has a lot of different options. So I think that some of the best moves it has access to, we're going to see are Bug Buzz. An amazing move to break through opposing Pokemon, opposing Psychics and Darks. You have access to Dazzling Gleam, which can break through Fightings, Dragons, and of course the Dark types as well. Energy Ball is really good for a ton of Water types in the generation, as well as Pokemon that are now Water and Ground types. Look at Pokemon like Quagsire and Gastrodon that got really big buffs. You have access to Fiery Dance, Heat Wave, and Flamethrower, all of which have their usefulnesses in your Fire Stab arsenal. Really useful if you want the boost to your special attack that Fiery Dance will provide, or the spread damage from Heat Wave, or just the general power from Flamethrower. On top of that, there is Hurricane, which is really hard hitting in a lot of situations. Psychic is a great move to have access to, just good coverage all around. Sludge Wave, great stab, really appreciate this Pokemon getting Sludge Wave, and then Acid Spray. I have Acid Spray here for general niche situations to get the -2 in your opponent's Spadef, and then hitting them with a bigger damage down the line. As for other moves that it gets that are going to be more support moves, you have moves like U-Turn, which is going to be a pretty common occurrence, I think, on this Pokemon. And then we have Morning Sun for recovery, which still has the same APP now as it did in previous generations, but other moves like Roost did get nerfed. There's Toxic Spikes, which is a really big advantage for this Pokemon to have access to some form of hazards, because it's going to force so many switches. Having the ability to get up Toxic Spikes are going to be really advantageous depending on certain matchups. And then of course Agility, which is going to be one of the most common sets you're going to see on a Pokemon like Iron Moth. Let's take a look at some teammates for Iron Moth. This Pokemon really appreciates the support that Chien-Pao provides. Chien-Pao, being an Ice and Dark type, does a really good job of breaking through bulky grounds. It also does a really good job of blowing past Psychic type Pokemon. And then each of these Pokemon provides support for each other in the fact that they can break through opposing bulky waters for one another. A really big advantage, and they form a nasty speed combination. The fact that they're both extremely fast and extremely hard hitting on opposite sides, physical and special, is a really big advantage. Then you have Pokemon like Wo-Chien. Wo-Chien has an immunity to Psychic and a resistance to Water and Ground. It's extremely bulky, and it has also Stab Knockoff, which the other Forces of Ruin don't have access to, which is really good and rare in this generation. Overall, I think that Wo-Chien is going to be one of the most underrated Pokemon, and I think that overall, the combination of Wo-Chien with a lot of other Pokemon that are going to be offensive and hard hitters is going to be a really good combination, so I would include Iron Moth into that. Then we have Grimmsnarl and Klefki. The reason I have both of these over here is because they do one job really, really well, and it's going to be to set up Prankster screens. I think that's really good for Pokemon like this that can get up its booster energy really easily, and then agility up, so it's a Life Orb boost in its special attack and a +2 boost in its speed can be really advantageous. Grimmsnarl also provides momentum with parting shots, and Klefki also provides hazard support with the spikes. And again, the main thing with these Pokemon is they allow Iron Moth to set up and sweep a lot easier. Then we have a Roaring Moon. Roaring Moon, one of the best Pokemon in this generation. It really appreciates Iron Moth's ability to get rid of fairies and steel types for it. Those two types are the biggest issues that Iron Moth, or that Roaring Moon has rather, in the metagame today. So having access to a Pokemon that can just destroy them is really, really good. On top of that, we have Corviknight. The reason why I have Corviknight over here is because it's immune to ground and it can pivot with the Iron Moth really effectively. Both of these Pokemon can learn U-turn and they can easily, I'd say, handle each other's counters really well, and then just again get into more advantageous positions, which is a really big deal in today's formats. Then finally we have Iron Jugulis. This Pokemon here, not the best Pokemon out there, but it does have an immunity to ground and immunity to psychic, which is a really big deal. And again, it pivots insanely well. It's got good stats overall, just the Pokemon itself kind of fell flat a little bit. So in general, these are some Pokemon that I would pair with Iron Moth. And if you guys have any suggestions for Pokemon to pair with it, let me know down in the comments below. But let's start talking about the best Terra types for a Pokemon like Iron Moth. Now, I'm usually cover about 2 to 3 of them, and I have 3 for you guys today, starting off with Fighting. I think that Terra Fighting works really well because you're able to break through a lot of checks in the tier. Something like Tyranitar, something like Garganacl could all really be broken down through Terra Blast Fighting. Having access to that, again, really solid overall. You're never going to be targeted by fairy type moves on the switch in or when you're going to about to go for a Terra Blast or a Terastalize, so you don't have to worry about taking the fairy type attacks. Psychic a little bit, but you can kind of play around that at least a bit more than something like Fairy because there are immunities to psychic types in the form of dark types. Then I have Flying here, and the reason why we have Flying is solely because it grants Iron Moth an immunity to ground, which is its biggest weakness, and that's really it. You don't really want to be clicking Terra Blast Flying because you have access to Hurricane already. You want to be clicking that because it's a lot more offensive, a lot more powerful, and has a secondary effect, while Terra Blast doesn't really have that. In general though, I do think that Flying makes a lot of sense. The main concern that I have with it is that it is still very weak to rock types. So having issues with being able to hit those Pokemon, you're gonna have to run something like Energy Ball on a Pokemon like Iron Moth. And then lastly, we have Fire. Terra Blast Fire makes a lot of sense, or Terastalizing Fire makes a lot of sense because you get the double boost in your fire type attacks, which is really, really important because they're gonna be doing a lot of damage already if you manage to get your booster energy up, or I should say, if you manage to get the boost from the Fiery Dance. In general, good options here. There are some other ones, but these are the 3 main ones in my opinion. Then for some great items here, obviously I think Booster Energy is going to be the best item you can run on this Pokemon, but then there is going to be obviously the Heavy Duty Boots. This Pokemon is weak to hazards, so having Boots access is going to be nice in certain situations. You can come in freely and just start breaking a lot more effectively. Then we have Black Sludge. It is a poison type. You want to run Black Sludge over Leftovers in case of Trick or Switcheroo or whatever, but I think that Black Sludge has its utility much more over an item like Leftovers in this case because of those reasons. And again, certain situations, certain subsets could really take advantage of that. Certain bulky sets, especially defensive sets, could work as well with the Black Sludge, especially if you have good hazard removal on your team. And then for more offensive options, we have Choice Scarf and Choice Specs. I think that Scarf is going to see a little bit more play just because the speed is really important. Obviously, Specs is really good, especially off of a base 140 type Pokemon, but there's a better Choice Specs user in the tier, and that's going to be Chi-Yu, so it doesn't really make sense to be running a Fire type Specs user in Iron Moth when there's a better one literally right next door. So yeah. As for some movesets here, we always talk about a couple of movesets on these guides here. Starting off with the first one is going to be a Quark Drive set, of course, with the Booster Energy, running max speed with a Timid Nature, with Fiery Dance, Sludge Wave, Energy Ball, and Agility. Fiery Dance and Sludge Wave with the Energy Ball coverage basically gets everything in the game, and then this set kind of does what you want to. It gets the Life Orb boost from the in a special attack because of the Booster Energy, and then it also has the Agility to get to +2 speed. A Pokemon like this with Grimmsnarl to get the hazards up, not the hazards up, but the screens up is really effective. We then have a Boots set here. We're still running very offensive. We swapped out U-Turn in favor, or swapped out Agility in favor of U-Turn to be able to give it a bit more momentum, which is really nice, especially because we're going to be coming in and out very often. This is a good generic fairy check to a lot of different teams. Then we have a really interesting EV spread here on this next one. This is also a Booster Energy set. The speed that we have on this and the investment we have sets us up in a way so we gain a speed boost from the Booster Energy, and we have a ton of investment into our HP because of that. With Fiery Dance, we have a chance to increase our special attack by 1 stage, which could be very advantageous. And with the combination of Sludge Wave and Energy Ball, with Morning Sun, we can stay healthy, which is really solid. Again, not a set you're going to see run very often, but it is a possibility. And then there's going to be the Heavy Duty Boot set with, again, this one here, Timid, with Fiery Dance, with U-Turn, Toxic Spikes, and Morning Sun. We are like very, very bulky. This is more of a pivoting set, again, that's able to set up hazards, just be annoying in general. I don't think this is the best set by any stretch of the imagination, but it does make some sense in certain situations to run a bulky Pokemon like this because this typing is really good defensively. And then the last thing we do when we talk about Pokemon in these guides is go over certain predictions for what we think these Pokemon are going to do when the dust settles. Starting off with Smogon, I believe this Pokemon is going to be in the OU tier. It is really, really good. Basically, it is a great breaker and beats almost every fairy type in the format, and because of that, it pairs a lot with the big threats in the format. Pokemon like Roaring Moon really appreciate those supports, so having access to an amazing fairy killer is obviously a great thing. It also absorbs Glimor's toxic spikes, and boots are super common. Having Pokemon to absorb the Glimor spikes is really important in my mind because that Pokemon is everywhere as a great lead option. And with Pokemon like Goldengo around to be able to be immune to hazard removal, I think that a Pokemon that can absorb the T-spikes is really advantageous. Then for VGC, this one here, I think it has some useful moves in VGC like Heat Wave and Helping Hand, which is cool, but it has the same role it has in singles. Now for Draft League, this is my specialty, and on a 17 to 18 point scale, I think this Pokemon is going to be around 14 or 15 points. The reason being is it does a really good job of taking advantage of the amazing coverage moves that it gets. We went over the coverage options before, it has a ton of them. That's really good in a series like Draft League. On top of that, the speed tier that it has, the special attack it has, is really good, and it pairs extremely well with some of the best Pokemon in the format. I'm looking at basically every single other Paradox Pokemon, well, most of them, not like Screamtail and whatever, but still, a lot of different Paradox Pokemon, but it also does a really good job with the 4 Treasures of Ruin, which are going to be your Wo-Shen, your Chien-Pao, your Ting-Lu, and your Chi-Yu. All of them pair really well with a Pokemon like Iron Moth. Overall, I have some really high hopes for this Pokemon in competitive Pokemon, and I hope you guys see the value of it too. And that's all I've got for you guys today on Iron Moth. If you guys enjoyed the video, then do me a favor and leave a like on the video to help us reach our like goal of 100 likes. Also, make sure to comment your thoughts on Iron Moth down in the comments below and let me know which Pokemon you want to see me cover next. Tomorrow we are going to be covering Slitherwing, so get excited for that. And of course, guys, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. Help us reach our end of year goal of 3,000 subscribers. I know we can do it. We are just starting off in December, about to start December, and I know we can definitely get there. We have less than a month to go, basically. Let's do it. I also want to give a big shout out to our YouTube channel members. Their support is really appreciated. Our level 1s are going to be Liv, Eric, Zeke, and Texas Man. Our level 2 is Tone, and our level 3 is Sully. They all went the extra mile by supporting the channel financially. If you want to do the same thing, you can click the join button to get access to shoutouts and special perks. Thank you all so much for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you guys all tomorrow.